What is the first thing that comes to your mind if I tell you Mongolian shelter? You probably think of a primitive tent, something basic, almost flimsy. A piece of fabric incapable of resisting the wildest winter on the planet. Well, get ready because you are about to discover that reality is a slap in the face. We are talking about places where the thermometer mercilessly plummets to 50 degrees below zero. A brutal, extreme temperature where a single miscalculation is paid with your life in a matter of hours. In these endless steps, if you stay out in the open, you simply disappear. And yet, inside, the cold does not exist. How is that possible? What is the trick? Under a combination of seemingly simple materials, such as wool, felt, and hides, lies a masterpiece of ancient thermodynamics. It is not a house. It is a precise, millimetric, and perfect survival mechanism that defies the laws of logic. And the most incredible thing of all is that it was designed hundreds of years ago. While outside the wind roars and freezing is a deadly threat, inside there is a habitable, warm, and cozy space. But here comes the true mystery that no one tells you. Why do modern buildings, with all our cutting-edge technology, usually lose the battle against these millenary structures? Why do these traditional yurts retain heat where cement and brick fail miserably? Today, we are going to gut the genius of nomadic engineering. We will analyze its structure step by step and discover the hidden physical principles that allow humans to cheat death in the most inhospitable place on Earth. You will understand how the hot air flow is distributed by natural convection, the scientific reason why the entrance is oriented in an ultra-specific way to block Arctic currents, and that single tiny detail that decides absolutely everything. Because I assure you, reality is much more complex and fascinating than you imagine. Are you ready to break your schemes? Fasten your seatbelt, turn up the volume because our journey begins. Imagine for a second the most absolute vastness. An endless steppe where trees do not exist. There are no fences, not a single village hidden behind the hill. Around you, only a white desert of snow that merges with the horizon. And the wind. The wind here doesn't just blow. It is a brutal enemy that hits you in the face and literally drains the last breath of heat from your body. When night falls, the thermometer plunges in such a violent way that nature does not forgive. A single mistake, a neglect of minutes, and you are dead. Faced with such a hostile scenario, what kind of shelter would you build? Your mind surely draws a fortress. Ultra-thick concrete walls, a heavy roof, and tiny windows. A massive, immobile, bunkerized structure to hide from a ruthless winter. But the nomads of Mongolia have been defying this logic for centuries. And they do it in a way that will blow your mind. Instead of stone, cement, or brick, the locals raise their homes using only wood, ropes, wool felt, and the constant heartbeat of a living fire. And careful. Don't think that this is just a simple temporary tent to weather the storm for a few hours. No. Real life in capital letters took place in this space. Here they slept deeply, cooked traditional dishes, raised new generations, and welcomed guests with the utmost hospitality, defying the darkest months of winter without ever losing the umbilical cord with the wild rhythm of the steppe. These legendary circular structures have a name that resonates strongly in history. Welcome to the world of the Yurts. If you look at a gyr from a distance, your first thought will be that it is too simple. A low, completely round silhouette, a skeleton of crossed wooden slats, a few posts propping up the roof, and a thick layer of felt covering everything. Let's be honest, it looks nothing like what you and I consider a secure home. But be careful, because the first impression in the step is almost always a deadly trap. From the outside, the gyr may seem modest, even fragile. But in this corner of the world, simplicity is not synonymous with weakness. It is synonymous with evolution. This structure had to meet, at the same time, a series of brutal demands imposed by an implacable nature. Think about it for a moment. First, the nomads needed to move their home constantly in search of new pastures, so the structure could not weigh tons. Second, the design had to be so highly intuitive and efficient that it allowed the entire house to be assembled and disassembled in a matter of a couple of hours. Third, the step is famous for its hurricane-force winds, capable of ripping off modern roofs, which forced the gyr to not have a single weak point or corner where the air could make leverage. And as if all this were not enough, came the ultimate challenge. The interior had to be a real furnace of heat. It is of no use to have a lighthouse that is easy to transport if your children are going to freeze at night, right? And right there is where the magic happens. Therein lies the great secret of the gyr. This incredible work of engineering manages to fuse elements that, at first glance, seem totally incompatible. It is ultralight, but incredibly durable. It is astonishingly simple, but planned down to the smallest millimeter. It is completely dismantlable, but firm as a rock. It is portable, yes, but capable of keeping you safe from the worst winter on the planet. How does it achieve this? Stay tuned, because the design of its layers is going to leave your mouth wide open. I want you to get something out of your head immediately. We are not talking about a simple picturesque tradition, nor a tourist attraction designed for people to take photos for Instagram. No, the gyr was not born out of aesthetics or an artistic whim. Each of its shapes, every material, and every structural joint went through a ruthless filter for centuries, the filter of real survival in the steppes. Those who designed these homes did not have the luxury of making mistakes, nor could they afford chance. A design with an incorrect aerodynamic shape betrayed itself instantly, collapsing under the blast of hurricane winds. A defective or poorly insulated cover meant that the entire family would freeze to death on the first winter night. And a heavy structure that was difficult to fit together became an unbearable nightmare in each seasonal move. Therefore, engrave it well in your mind. The gyr is not the precarious dwelling of a past civilization. It is the exact geometric, mathematical, and physical response to living conditions that border on the limits of human capability. Have you noticed modern buildings? They are often full of ornaments, beautiful but completely useless architectural solutions that waste energy. In the gyr, that does not exist. The more you examine its anatomy, the clearer an absolute truth becomes. Its brutal effectiveness does not depend on a single great mystery. It depends on absolutely every millimeter fulfilling a specific vital function. Zero superfluous elements. Zero unnecessary ornaments. Everything in there is designed to keep you alive. And when you understand how each piece of the puzzle works, that's when your head makes a real click. At first glance, anyone would think that the great secret of the gyr is that thick layer of felt that traps heat. But before we get into the materials, we have to stop before a mathematical and fascinating question. Why is this house round? Why on earth doesn't it have a single corner? I assure you, this has nothing to do with aesthetics or interior design. It is pure aerodynamics applied to survival. Let's do a thought experiment. Imagine you are in the middle of the wild steppe during a hurricane-force windstorm. In front of you, there is a traditional square house. What happens? The flat wall receives the full impact of the air like a giant sailboat sail. The corners create points of very high rigid resistance. The gust hits, slows down, catches, and presses the structure over and over again with brutal force. If the wind is strong enough, it will destroy the walls. Now, look right next to it. There you have a jeer. It is lower, flattened, and completely cylindrical. There are no corners. There are no right angles. What does the wind do? Instead of crashing destructively, the airflow embraces the structure, slides down its curved walls, and goes straight on its way without barely opposing resistance. It's brilliant. For the steppe, this geometric difference is the line that separates life from death. In the modern world, we are used to living in concrete boxes. We live in cubes out of pure habit, and we hardly ever stop to think why our houses have that shape. But in Mongolia, the exterior shape is already your first line of defense. Designing a right angle out there is making yourself vulnerable from the very first second. And watch out, because exterior aerodynamics is only half the map. There is a second factor that will blow your mind: interior thermal efficiency. Have you noticed what happens in the corners of a modern room in winter? Exactly. Dead zones are created, cold corners where the hot air does not circulate well and energy dissipates. In the GER, that is physically impossible. Being a circular space, there are no useless corners or dead areas excluded from daily life. There is no feeling of space fragmented into separate rooms. Everything, absolutely everything, orbits and gathers compactly around a single unified center, the fire. The heat is distributed in an enveloping and homogeneous way, optimizing every single calorie. Do you want to know how this circular structure stands up without using a single metal nail? Get ready, because the wooden skeleton is a work of art. Take a step forward. Imagine leaving behind the Arctic gale, opening the door of the GER and entering. Forget about the long, dark, and labyrinthine corridors of modern apartments. Forget about fragmented rooms. Upon crossing the threshold, you suddenly bump into a single, open, and absolute space. Your brain processes everything in a single glance. Over there is the stove roaring with force. To one side, the rest area. To the other, the perfectly organized provisions. Why is it like this? Because when you are at the limit of your strength, in the midst of extreme conditions, humans do not need unnecessary decoration. They need an intuitive environment, easy to understand and ultra-fast to use. Every second counts. Every movement must be efficient. But wait, because there is an architectural detail that usually goes unnoticed by the Western eye, but contains an overwhelming logic. Did you know that the entrance door of a GER almost always points with mathematical precision towards the south? And no, it is not due to aesthetic reasons, superstition, or feng shui. It is pure survival physics. In the Northern Hemisphere, orienting the entrance towards the south guarantees two brutal advantages. The first, you take advantage of every last ray of sunlight during the short winter days, illuminating the interior naturally. The second, and perhaps the most vital, the most destructive, icy, and freezing winds of Siberia lash out violently from the north and northwest. By placing the door on the opposite side, you create a perfect shield. The icy air never hits the entrance head-on when you enter or leave your home. It's an invisible bunker. By now you've already realized, right? In the design of a traditional jeer, there are no coincidences. Everything is coldly calculated. The round geometry deflects the hurricane gusts. Its low and flattened silhouette gives it a brutal center of gravity, providing unwavering stability against storms. And the south-facing door maximizes light energy while minimizing the impact of extreme cold. But now comes the million-dollar question. If the exterior structure is so perfect, how on earth does this wooden skeleton stand up without using a single metal nail? What lies behind those felt walls is going to blow your mind. This is precisely where most people get suspicious. When someone hears for the first time that a dwelling capable of resisting the Arctic winter is covered in felt, they simply don't believe it. It's impossible, they think. Wool seems to us like something soft, domestic, a fragile texture that we associate with a blanket or a sweater. We have the false belief that to save ourselves from a deadly cold, we need hard materials. Stone, brick, concrete, or complex latest generation synthetic insulators. Well, get ready because the physics of the nomads will prove just the opposite to you. It all starts with a masterpiece of flexible and ultra-resistant carpentry, a wooden frame. The walls are formed by retractable wooden lattices called kana, which maintained the cylindrical shape. From there, dozens of wooden poles rise towards the sky, converging in a central ring to shape the roof. It is a perfect skeleton. But the true thermal miracle occurs when this skeleton is dressed with the heavy layers of pressed wool felt. What is the scientific secret hidden behind this millennial material? It is of an overwhelming genius: trapped air. Felt is not just wool, it is a microscopic labyrinth of millions of intertwined fibers that encapsulate air bubbles inside. And in thermal physics, still air is one of the best natural insulators that exist on the planet. Imagine the process in slow motion while the editing shows the layers of the GER. Outside, the freezing wind hits the outer waterproof canvas cover with fury. But the cold stops dead. Behind that canvas, there is a layer of thick felt. Behind it, an intermediate air chamber, then another layer of felt, the wooden structure, and finally, the warm air of the interior. It is a multi-layer insulation system, identical to the one used in astronauts' spacesuits. This envelope, which at first glance looks soft and delicate, turns out to be an impassable barrier to the elements. It may not have the appearance of the wall of a medieval fortress, but it works exactly where it is most needed. It blocks the outside cold and traps the internal heat so that it cannot escape. But of course, if the house is so absurdly well insulated and airtight, how do they light a fire in the center without suffocating to death from the smoke? The answer is right on the roof, and it is a masterpiece of adjustable ventilation. Pay attention to this. Felt is not just a brutal insulator, it has another advantage that leaves modern construction in ridicule. This house is a living organism that adapts completely to the seasons of the year. Is the wildest Siberian winter arriving? Extra layers of felt are added until an impassable thermal wall is created. Is summer coming and temperatures are rising? Part of the cover is removed to lighten the structure. Is it necessary to cool the environment? The lower edges of the canvas are rolled upwards, allowing a spectacular breeze to blow. The GER is not a rigid concrete block frozen in a single shape for the whole year. It changes, mutates, and evolves along with the weather. For nomadic life, this flexibility is the key to everything. It completely breaks with our urban logic. We build immobile, heavy boxes designed to last identical for decades. The GER, on the other hand, embraces versatility. It can be reinforced, lightened, opened, closed, moved, and re-erected in a breath. And furthermore, its own volume plays in its favor. Being compact and low-roofed, it does not lose energy. Here you are not going to find endless corridors or empty rooms to heat separately. Every cubic millimeter is optimized to retain the temperature. And at the epicenter of this warm micro-kingdom, the very heart of the home welcomes you. The origin of the heat is right in the geometric center. And watch out, this is not a decorative whim or a beautiful ancestral custom. It is a physical calculation of millimetric precision. By placing the stove exactly in the middle, thermal waves expand in concentric circles in all directions. Heat does not accumulate on a single wall, nor does it leave frozen areas at the opposite end. In a circular space, this scheme heats the entire volume of air in the fastest and most homogeneous way possible. The stove in the GER is the axis upon which the nomadic universe rotates. There they cook, boil water for tea, dry wet clothes after the day's work, and the family gathers at nightfall to share stories. However, keeping a living fire in such an airtight space is playing with fire, literally. If the smoke is not evacuated, the house transforms into a deadly carbon monoxide trap. If oxygen does not circulate, the environment becomes suffocating in minutes. How did they solve this dilemma 1,000 years ago without electric extractors or complex technology? With a piece of genius called Toono. The Toono is a sacred circular opening located at the very top of the roof, right above the stove. During the day, it functions as a natural skylight that floods the space. But its true function is mechanical. It is the perfect chimney. The system works like a Swiss watch of thermodynamics. Fresh air from the step penetrates in a controlled manner through the lower micro slits of the GER. Upon reaching the center, the stove heats it instantly. Since hot air is less dense, it rises with force, dragging the smoke from the fire and escaping at full speed through the Toono, creating an impeccable natural ventilation draft. A perfect fluid engineering, efficient and without a single cable. Inside a GER, chaos does not exist. Forget about leaving your keys around or throwing your jacket on just any chair. Here, every object knows its exact place with millimetric precision. And no, it's not due to a beautiful tradition. It's out of strict, pure, and hard necessity for survival. Think about it carefully. We are in a small space, a circle of barely 5 or 6 steps in diameter. In such an environment, the price of a mistake is multiplied by 100. Tripping over discarded clothes or wasting time looking for something means wasting heat, energy, and patience. Imagine you return from the step at 30 degrees below zero and your mittens are not where they should be. Having to search the entire GER, lifting every layer of felt to find them, is a death sentence. By the time they appear, the Arctic wind will have already chilled your back, and the firewood in the stove will be completely consumed. For this reason, the nomads divided the space with military logic. The north side, the furthest from the entrance and the most protected from the wind, is the sacred area. Honored guests are received there, and chests with family relics and Buddhist images are guarded. The west side is male territory, the home of bows, knives, hunting tools, hides, and saddles. And on the opposite side, to the east, the female world unfolds, intended for tableware, food, sewing, and children's clothes. And in the center, always the stove, the source of all life. When the internal geography is so perfect, the miracle happens. People do not collide with each other nor obstruct the fire. And watch out. Between 6 and 10 people usually live together in a jur. Parents, children, grandparents, and visitors sharing the same roof. Can you imagine that population density without a strict organization? It would be an absolute hell. The GER forces you to embrace a radical minimalism. It does not tolerate clutter or accumulate useless junk because simply there is no space for them. Each object must have a real and vital function for day-to-day life. If it does not serve to survive, it stays outside on the step. It is a brutal lesson in architecture and life. Comfort is not born from adding new things, but from leaving solely and exclusively what is necessary. When you clear the space of the superfluous, what is left is not emptiness. It is air to breathe and move. But now let's enter the deepest and most fascinating secret of the GER. Something that goes far beyond fluid physics or wool insulation. Let's talk about the human mind. In a yurt, it is physically impossible to hide. Separate bedrooms do not exist. There are no private offices where you can lock the door. There are no dark corners to hide from others. Everyone is, all the time, in everyone else's sight. If someone coughs, the whole GER hears it. If one has not slept well, their mood instantly infects the entire family. For us Westerners accustomed to our concrete boxes with isolated rooms, this sounds like an absolute nightmare. We live obsessed with personal space and privacy. But Mongolians have been proving for centuries that this forced transparency is, in reality, one of their greatest strengths. This extreme coexistence gave rise to a fascinating culture where passive aggression, rudeness, or prolonged resentment are simply unsustainable. Think about it for a moment. If you get angry with your yurt companion, where are you going to go to blow off steam? Are you going to go outside to the frozen steppe at -40 degrees? In 15 minutes, the cold will force you to beg to come back in. And when you cross the door, everyone will see your red cheeks and watery eyes. You cannot apply the silent treatment and stay quiet for 3 days, like you would in a large apartment. In such a narrow circular space, silence becomes an unbearable torture for everyone, including yourself. Everyone will ask you instantly what is wrong with you, forcing you to reconcile, give explanations, or be exposed. This architecture molded a unique psychology in the world. The nomads learned the subtle science of clearing things up quickly and forgiving from the heart. The GER is not just a thermal shield against the ice. It is a ruthless school of human tolerance. Perhaps, and only perhaps, that is why Mongolian nomads survived with a smile, where European travelers froze or ended up going crazy from isolation. The European, trapped in his need for walls and locks, felt completely helpless and naked in the GER. He was driven crazy by others' smells, others' conversations, and feeling someone else's breath on his back. The Mongol, on the other hand, understood from the cradle a great truth, that the physical world can be very narrow and that the only way not to lose your head is to learn to fit perfectly with others. The Mongolian Gyr never intended to defeat the winter by fighting against it. Its inhabitants did not survive because they were immune to the freezing cold, but because their home was perfectly coupled to the reality of the steppe. It's not magic. It is pure physics, it is ancestral engineering, and above all, it is mastery in human coexistence. A perfect structure that does not defy nature, but merges in perfect harmony with its wildest rules.